conflict with Iran causing shockwaves across the world. The death toll continues to climb with new waves of airstrikes as thousands of Americans try to escape the region. Hello, I'm Anna Laurel. Today we're covering the latest on the conflict, the evacuations, and the impacts we're seeing right here at home. Here's what we know. The U.S. and Israel continue to bombard Iran, and they show no sign of letting up. Iran has kept up its retaliatory attacks on Israel, American bases, and its neighbors. Many countries shut down their airspace, and it's causing chaos at some of the world's busiest airports. All 6 U.S. service members killed in a drone strike in Kuwait have now been identified, and President Donald Trump has said there could be more U.S. deaths. The Pentagon says the U.S. will start striking deeper into Iran, warning the conflict is still in its early days. Brian Abel has more.
The war in Iran is expanding and further drawing in U.S. allies.
We're working with the Americans in the deployment from our bases.
Fresh waves of Israeli strikes setting off explosions in Tehran and in Lebanon. Iran firing missiles at Israel and targeting an Amazon data center in Bahrain and 2 Amazon facilities in the United Arab Emirates. With the spread of violence, the death toll rising. More than 1,200 people killed in Iran since Saturday, according to state-affiliated Islamic Republic news agency. The Pentagon identifying the remaining 2 of the 6 U.S. service members killed in Operation Epic Fury as 45-year-old Major Jeffrey O'Brien and 54-year-old Chief Warrant Officer Robert Marzin. As the security situation for civilians abroad grows more dire, some flights in the Middle East are resuming, along with the first U.S. facilitated charter flights carrying Americans home Tuesday.
Our highest priority is allowing this to safely happen.
Those evacuated Americans returning to political turmoil as Democrats in Congress question the justifications provided for striking Iran in the first place.
The president had a feeling, again, based on fact, that Iran was going to strike the United States, was going to strike our assets in the region.
They have given no coherent plan as to what was the imminent threat.
Senate Republicans Wednesday rejecting a resolution to rein in Trump's war powers. In Washington, Brian Abel.
President Trump says operations in Iran are likely to last 4 to 5 weeks.
The United States military, together with the wonderful Israeli partners, continues to totally demolish the enemy far ahead of schedule and at levels that people have never seen before, actually. We're destroying more of Iran's missiles and drone capability every single hour, knocking them out like nobody thought was possible. But we have the greatest military anywhere in the world. Their Navy is gone. 24 ships in 3 days. That's a lot of ships. Their anti-aircraft weapons are gone. So they have no air force. They have no air defense.
The president says one goal of Operation Epic Fury is to derail Iran's nuclear program. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says how long the conflict lasts depends on how it unfolds, but insists the U.S. won't be dragged into an endless war. The State Department is warning Americans to leave more than a dozen Middle East countries due to serious safety risks. The list of countries include Bahrain, Egypt, Iran, Iraq, Israel, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Syria, United Arab Emirates, and Yemen. Thousands of flights are canceled internationally, and with only a limited number of flights available, the Trump administration is working on options for charter, military, and expanded commercial flights.
We need to have contact information for Americans that need assistance. They have to register with us because as these options begin to open up, and as they open up, we have to be able to call you. We have to be able to reach you.
Americans in the region are being asked to call or register with the State Department for help. Several U.S. embassies in the Middle East are closed, but the State Department says help is still available. Randy Hildreth spoke with a new father desperate to get his family back to the States.
As conflict intensifies between the U.S. and Iran, Americans abroad are stuck in an unnerving limbo.
Just try to make the best decisions we can.
Eugene Danishvar evacuated from Iran to Dubai before the conflict started, hoping he'd gotten his family to a safer place on their journey home to the United States. According to the Associated Press, an Iranian drone hit a parking lot outside the U.S. consulate in Dubai Tuesday.
We're pretty close to the action, which makes us obviously nervous.
Now, Danishvar, his wife, his mother-in-law, his sister-in-law, and his newly adopted 7-month-old Iranian twin boys are struggling to get flights home.
It's just a matter of there's not those flights altogether are being canceled. The airlines are not returning those charges either right now because everything's just shut down. So one of the challenges I have is make sure I have enough credit line to book more flights.
Danishvar shared this video with WUSA 9 of the crowd of people trying to rebook flights on the Emirates airline.
I think at the moment I'm just adrenaline pushing, and I need to get my kids out and my wife.
He had 2 flights booked for later this week for his family, but shortly after our interview, both were canceled. Tuesday, the Department of State posted to X that it was actively securing military aircraft and charter flights for American citizens who wish to leave the Middle East.
Everybody feels hung out to dry. There was not an effort really to evacuate American populations in the Middle East.
Ryan Costello is the policy director for the National Iranian American Council. He estimates there are thousands, if not tens of thousands, of Iranian Americans who are on the ground in Iran.
Essentially, nowhere feels safe inside the country. And ability to get in touch with individuals inside Iran is limited.
Costello says people are scrambling to evacuate, but say it's a struggle to find a way, and he hopes peace comes soon.
I hope the State Department can help these people. There are a lot of people, across the region who are in harm's way.
Randy Hildreth, WUSA 9.
The Pentagon has publicly identified all 6 service members killed in Kuwait on Sunday. Captain Cody Cork from Winter Haven, Florida. Sergeant First Class Noah Tegens from Bellevue, Nebraska. Sergeant First Class Nicole Amore is from White Bear Lake, Minnesota. Sergeant Declan Cody from West Des Moines, Iowa. They were all part of the same Army Reserve unit in Iowa. Major Jeffrey O'Brien is also from Indianola, Iowa, and Chief Warrant Officer and Robert Marzan was from Sacramento, California. Sergeant Declan Cody was just 20 years old. He was studying cybersecurity at Drake University in Des Moines and doing online classes while in Kuwait. His family said he wanted to be an officer.
But one thing he did say is that, I haven't had a lot of jobs, but I've had jobs in the civilian world. And I've been over here for 6 months, and I work 12+ hour days. I work 6 to 7 days a week. And he goes, I love it.
I still don't fully think it's real. And I didn't think it was real when they told us. Because I just remember all of our conversations about what he was going to do when he came back. And so I'll just be sitting and thinking about it. And then it's really hard.
Cody just told his dad last week he had been recommended for promotion. He received that rank to sergeant posthumously. Sergeant Amore served the country for more than 2 decades. She was 18 years old when she first enlisted in the National Guard. Her husband told the Associated Press he just spoke with her 2 hours before she was killed. He says she was just days away from returning home to both him and their 2 children. Some military families are watching this situation with anxiety, worried about their loved ones in the Middle East. Derek Lyle spoke to the sister of a sailor on the USS Gerald R. Ford, the largest aircraft carrier in the world.
Brianna Cottle tells me it's been an emotional battle every day. She says it's her sister, ABAN Tiffany Galarza's first year in the Navy and first deployment. And she says they're holding strong, praying for their loved one's safe return from the Middle East. A wide range of feelings for loved ones back home as family aboard the USS Gerald R. Ford in the Middle East continue to support Operation Epic Fury.
If I'm being completely honest, my family and I are scared.
Cottle says communication can be spotty, and she often anxiously waits to hear from her sister deployed on the USS Gerald R. Ford.
We don't get to say much. It's usually short messages, look, it feels like. And she returns with, I love you, and thank you for being strong.
Cottle says she turned to social media and was blown away by the support she received from others with loved ones on the same deployment.
Has been such a blessing that we can talk to each other and continue to encourage each other.
She says it's been hard to not feel guilty about living everyday life normally back in the States, but others have comforted her.
It makes me feel guilty sometimes. And this is not what our loved ones would want, that they're doing what they have to do and they want us to continue to do what we need to do back here at home.
With no timeline on how long USS Gerald R. Ford will be in the Middle East, for now, Cottle leans into faith that her sister will return home safely.
I know they serve our country, and I pray that God continues to cover them and guide them and bring them home safely.
In Iran, leaders say more than 1,000 people have been killed in recent days, and that number continues to grow. More than 165 people were killed when a school was hit. Iranian state media reports most of them were children. Iran is expected to name a new supreme leader after Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was killed in one of the first strikes. He had ruled since 1989. Gas prices are already climbing, but the strain on your wallet may not stop at the pump. Coming up, a deeper dive into how the conflict in the Middle East could impact the economy. For the first time since World War II, the U.S. military sunk a ship with a torpedo. It was an Iranian warship in international waters just south of Sri Lanka. The U.S. Department of Defense released this video Wednesday. It's believed more than 80 people were killed in this attack. Strikes on Iran have injected more instability into the U.S. economy. And while skyrocketing crude oil prices pushed gas prices higher, the pumps aren't the only place you could feel the squeeze. Karen Kaifa is in Washington with a look at how an extended conflict could impact your wallet.
Economists say the impact of the Iran war on the U.S. economy will depend upon how long it lasts.
If instead of 4 weeks, we're talking about 4 months or longer, very different discussion. So duration is key to economic impact.
The conflict in the Middle East has sent crude oil prices soaring, a spike playing out at the gas pumps this week. Meghna Maharishi, airline reporter for Skift, says higher oil prices could eventually impact the cost of flying.
It is hard to tell how much an increase in jet fuel prices might impact airfares, just because airfares are mostly a product of supply and demand, but jet fuel is definitely a factor.
Covering higher transportation costs, whether by air or truck, impacts companies' bottom lines. The conflict is also prompting shipping vessels to avoid the Strait of Hormuz off Iran's southern coast. Michael Goldman, general manager for North America at Karu Containers, says taking the long way costs more.
We're seeing the routes that ships having to take be much longer, much more costly, going around the Horn of Africa instead of going through the Strait of Hormuz and the Red Sea. And we're definitely seeing cost increases to the carriers to make those journeys.
Uncertainty about whether companies will increase the price of their goods and boost inflation may encourage the Federal Reserve to keep interest rates steady, delaying relief to American consumers collectively carrying record household debt from higher mortgage, credit card, and auto loan balances. In Washington, I'm Karen Kaifa.
Markets like things calm, cool, and collected. When there's uncertainty, they react. Right now, so many people are keeping an eye on those crude oil prices. It's the main ingredient in the gasoline we use in cars, jet fuel, and diesel. About 20% of the whole world's oil supply is transported through a narrow waterway next to Iran. It's called the Strait of Hormuz. Because of the conflict, some shipping companies are reassessing routes due to safety concerns. President Trump says if necessary, the U.S. Navy will escort tankers through the strait. Walt Gray spoke with an expert to get more insight on the impact to our economy and Iran's government.
Dr. Sahar Razavi is a political science professor at Sacramento State University and director of the Iranian and Middle East Center. Doctor, nice to have you here. You, as a young person, lived in Iran, but most of your time has been spent here in the United States. Would you say that most of Iran now is in favor of a regime change? I don't need specific percentages, but where is the general population in all this?
According to the most reliable public opinion data that we have, the vast majority of Iranians do want a fundamental change to the system. That does not necessarily translate into all being in favor of regime change from an external force. There are many different views on what the proper means and methods are to bring about a different kind of system, but they are generally, yes, in favor of a total change to what we have.
So if they are in favor of that and not necessarily in favor of war, how else would you do this based on the two ayatollahs who've been in power since '79?
This is one of the great dilemmas of Iranian society, that Iranian civil society has been struggling for many years, for many decades, to try to make changes from within the system. And they haven't worked because the state has enacted really unlimited violence and repression on them. So Iranians now feel like when all other avenues have been foreclosed, they don't really know what is left to do. At the same time, a lot of Iranians were alive for and remember the Iran-Iraq War, and they're very cognizant of the death and destruction that war brings. So there are a lot of mixed and complex emotions.
So looking at what's happening in Tehran right now, how long can Iran go with being squeezed by the U.S.? How long economically can they last?
Economically, they were already very much on the rocks and on the ropes. But the Iranian military is built for survival in a war of attrition. That they have been fortified for that type of a system and that type of an engagement. So militarily, this could last for quite some time on the Iranian side. Economically, people were already suffering very dramatically. So I'm not sure how much more economic pain people can go through. But I know they already have gone through so much that it would just be seen as a continuation of that misery economically by a lot of people.
20% of the world's oil comes through the Strait of Hormuz, as you know. So when would we start to see the effect here? I mean, obviously, we're going to see a spike in gas prices, no doubt. Is there anything else the United States will feel from what's going on right now?
I think we're going to see a lot of impacts. The Strait of Hormuz is 20%, but the Iranian ally in the Houthis also control to some extent the Red Sea. So we could see not only a spike in oil prices, but also the price of many goods that get shipped in cargo ships through these different passages. This also could have significant political ramifications for us. As you know, we're ahead of the midterm elections. And I think right now, Trump sees this as a calculation for him that it would be beneficial to him to be a wartime president as the incumbent going into these elections, which he very strongly feels the GOP needs to win decisively in order to protect him from potential impeachment proceedings or even possibly removal. If we see prolonged military engagement and more service member deaths in an environment where the vast majority of Americans were already against the war before it began, when we were talking about the possibilities, then this could hurt him and shift our political landscape more than he may have anticipated.
I'm sensing from what you're saying that this regime that's been in power will fight to the death, never mind the economic impacts on this, yes?
It's the current iteration of the conflict is very much an existential threat for the regime. They have made clear that if they are going down, they are going to make it as painful as possible for all of the U.S. allies and assets in the region. And they are putting pressure on Gulf states to try to make some kind of a backdoor deal with Trump to try to bring this to an end.
Such as Dubai and UAE.
That's right.
Yes, okay. Doctor, thank you for joining us today. Appreciate your insight.
Coming up, viral videos are spreading misinformation online, and AI is helping fuel the flames. The World Cup is less than 100 days out, and it's unclear if the Iranian team will participate with the ongoing conflict. Iran's matches in California and Washington State this summer are up in the air. Madison Wade reports from Seattle.
We are living through a time right now of heightened international tension.
Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson acknowledged the Iran war during a press conference where city leaders unveiled a new art installation on the monorail columns downtown.
And that's part of why it is so beautiful that here in Seattle, we're going to get to show how soccer connects people across the world.
The display represents 48 nations, including Iran and Egypt, which are scheduled to face each other at Lumen Field on June 26. Over the weekend, Iran's Soccer Federation president cast doubt on the country's participation, saying, quote, What is certain is that after this attack, we cannot be expected to look forward to the World Cup with hope.
I would say that it's too soon to say what's going to happen. It's a very dynamic situation.
Seattle's World Cup Organizing Committee says it is in constant communication with federal partners and FIFA over Iran's participation.
This week, we were supposed to get a visit from the Iranian delegation as well as the Qatari delegation, and they had to postpone, but that's simply because they couldn't get out of their countries. Airspace is shut down, so it was more of a travel situation as opposed to anything else.
Even before the strike started, the Trump administration had travel bans already in place, including against Iran. While athletes and coaches are exempt, Iranian soccer fans are barred from attending games. A new CNN poll shows most Americans disapprove of U.S. military action in Iran, and a majority think a long-term conflict is likely. Nearly 6 in 10 say they oppose the decision to strike Iran, and more than half believe the conflict will drag on for an extended period of time. Most also question President Trump's handling of the situation, with 60% saying he does not have a clear plan. Most also say he should seek congressional approval before any further action is taken. The poll shows just 12% support sending U.S. ground troops into Iran. Fake AI videos are spreading online, fueling misinformation. Taimur Soban shows us what to watch out for.
As the war in the Middle East widens, a wave of hyper-realistic AI-generated videos is flooding social media. Here is a closer look at the facts. First, let's look at Dubai. Several AI-generated images and videos have gone viral. None of this actually happened. Officials from the UAE Ministry of Defense have confirmed that they have intercepted hundreds of attacks since the war began. But the Burj Khalifa was never hit and did not catch on fire. In Bahrain, another video is making the rounds. This viral daytime footage shows classic AI hallucinations, like these two cars blending into one another. A reverse image search also reveals no credible news reports matching this footage. It is a complete fabrication. Finally, videos claiming to show the Iranian Revolutionary Guard deploying doomsday missiles have racked up thousands of views. Again, if you look closely at the details, the errors become obvious. In a fast-moving conflict, seeing isn't always believing. Before you share dramatic footage, look for visual inconsistencies and check verified news sources.
You can count on us to keep you updated on the latest developments on the situation in the Middle East and the impacts here at home. For now, I'm Anna Laurel. Thanks for watching.